Hey everyone, so today I'm joined by Bianca Bass. It's all about the bass. It's all about the bass. It's all about the bass.
It kind of works.
Who is the marketing director in the Fintech space.
Yeah.
With a wealth of knowledge of both B2B and B2C. So we are very, very happy to be joined by Bianca.
Yes, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
She was late.
I was.
Ladies and gents.
And I was only 15 minutes away. No excuses.
No excuses. She owned it. So, Bianca, we actually met through some mutual contacts of ours where you used to work before, and this is the first time we've actually met in person.
I know.
And it's been, the thing is, I've been following your LinkedIn posts, and you know, I've been kind of inspired to see what the things you've been doing, including going from the role of marketing into going to the board at the tender age of 29.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something we really want to kind of discuss in more detail. But firstly, we want to go straight in, right?
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, like you are quite, you've got a very strong personal brand in terms of, you know, you put out what you think, and also what I really like about your content is you kind of put into words what most people are thinking or maybe too shy to say. Or maybe they are kind of wondering what to do, but then they kind of don't really kind of talk about it in more detail. So go straight in. Digital marketing is no longer about products. It's about buying a better version of yourself. That could be whether you, I'll just do that one again.
No, go for it. And I might do the same sometimes, so you're all good. Should we do a clap?
Yes.
Yeah.
Editor, cut that bit out. So Bianca, let's go straight into it. Digital marketing is no longer about products. It's about buying a better version of yourself. Could you expand on this?
Yes, I love this philosophy, and it's something that I use in every role, every industry that I approach. So we're all about product in marketing. That's very much what we're taught early on. You've got to push your product, you've got to be very clear on your value proposition. And where I come to this is from a different perspective. I think that it's so much less about us as a brand, us and our product. It's about who we're trying to reach. And fundamentally, we are in such a saturated market and a saturated time. Performance marketing is becoming more expensive. Brands are at the mercy of algorithms. And fundamentally for me, I look at this and I think, hold on, the brands that really are going to stand out and those that are going to win true customer loyalty, it's about placing themselves in that customer's life properly. It's about aligning with their aspirations. It's about understanding what their goals are and being a part of the kind of person they want to be and the way they want to feel in the world. So an example could be if you look at Airbnb, who we hold up in marketing all the time. Airbnb has a multitude of budget properties, but the experience, the brand has always been premium. From the very beginning, it's always been design-led. So even if you are going for something that is super, super cheap, you still feel that, oh, there's a community that I'm a part of. The visuals are really strong. The communication is consistent, and I love that. When I worked at 3S Money, which was the company where I was appointed to the board, that whole experience reinforced this for me. So I joined, and at the time it was very much a B2B fintech, reaching non-resident directors who needed access to local business accounts. So say you're from the Netherlands and you want to set up an office in the UK, it's very difficult without a British passport to get access to local banking infrastructure. And one of the things that myself and my team did very successfully was we didn't treat that as you're a non-resident, we can help you, you've not had options in the past. We thought, how do we create a premium experience so people feel like we understand their values and their mission, we understand what their priorities are, and it isn't a subprime opportunity or something that is an option for the unbanked, quote unquote. It's about creating this amazing customer experience. So I always go back to what is the best version of themselves a customer wants to feel. How do we align with that? How do we be a part of that story? How does our offering help them tell the story of, yes, we're working with brands that really care about us first and foremost. And then our product can, of course, get into that, but it has to be in that order. It has to be an understanding, that intrinsic motivation that our customers have, and then working towards it from there.
Wow, what a good answer. And that was the follow-up I was going to ask. In terms of examples, are there any other companies that you look at for, when this kind of cuts across in terms of Airbnb, but are there any other local companies or smaller companies that we may?
Yes, and I'm so glad you asked that, because I was about to say, Spotify Wrapped is a great example of how it takes its app and its product and it makes it all about us, and that's why we love that moment, because we get to share, maybe not all the songs we've been listening to, but the parts that make us feel the best version of ourselves. Yeah, plenty of those. It just came out today, Spotify Wrapped. I was going through it this afternoon. But a brand that I absolutely love, that I think exemplifies this, is a sustainable fashion company called Panty. So it's two sisters that are the co-founders, and they originally started out taking t-shirts that were going to landfill and turning them into underwear.
Oh, wow.
And that was their mission. And they have now expanded out the range to have really elevated basics and just a fantastic set of products. And what I love about them is fashion brand. You could do, of course, brilliant product shoots, and they do. You could make it look really slick and really, fashion forward, which it is. But they also have really thoughtful posts on their Instagram where they talk about, for example, the use of AI in fashion photo shoots. And they invite their community to share their thoughts on that. And they get all these comments and all this debate going. And I love that, because it's treating the customer as a whole person. This isn't just a transactional relationship, it's a conversation. And we want to hear your voice as part of it. So they're a really good example for me, and I uphold them all the time as a smaller brand that's growing quickly based on that principle. They really have what I think is a philosophy that all brands should apply. They're not talking down to their customers. They're not talking across an extended table. They're sat next to each other like you and I are, and they're really in that together.
So, this is going off topic, but
yeah, love a tangent.
If I were to say to you, a friend of mine has started a business,
yes,
and he has very limited budget, maybe, or he or she, I should say, have very limited budgets, and they don't know where to start it, but they love this concept of being able to show their ideal customer a better version of themselves. What advice would you give someone who's in that position?
I love that position. I hear that quite often from founders. Where do we begin when we don't have any budget?
Yeah.
You can always have a conversation. Have as many conversations as you can, and when you talk to your customers, it's really tempting to get their opinion on your website immediately or the product that you want to go to market with. Don't. Find out about them, their habits, what press they consume, what apps they use, why, where they go on holiday, the kinds of conversations they're having with their friends, what's on their mind about climate change, what's on their mind about global issues. Get into their mindset and get them feeling like the fullest version of themselves, because you will then have a roadmap for where you need to actually put your budget, where they're actually going to be looking for recommendations, how their friends talk about brands like yours. That for me is really key. So I would say having a conversation costs nothing. People are surprisingly happy and open to helping early stage startups they believe in. And when you have those early adopters and they see themselves in your story, you build that OG community from the beginning. And then you could go back to that group and say, we really valued what you shared. And it starts to build up over time. And something that I love for early stage companies is that introductions and recommendations don't cost a thing either.
Yeah.
So if you're a B2B business, for example, and I don't think this is done enough, the network effect of your customers, why are there not more B2B companies who are creating referral schemes within their customer bases?
Yeah.
Why are there not more B2B companies who are looking at their customer base as a directory? There's so much there. Say I'm a B2B fintech. I'll take my industry, but you can apply it to different sectors, right? I'm a B2B fintech. I have customers that are tax advisors. I also have customers that are legal firms. I also have customers that are e-commerce companies. Why are we not connecting across as well as just for us,
Wow.
There's so much in that.
Actually, we might actually use that idea.
No, this is a real thing. Take it.
Let's stop this podcast so we can implement this.
Mic drop and goodbye.
No, honestly, that's amazing. From going from that, in terms of you have recently started a new role.
Yeah.
But there are so many other marketing managers or people in the marketing world who have to often go from one role to another. What advice would you give to marketers who are starting a new job on day one? They may not have. Actually, this is a real thing that comes in a lot.
Yeah.
We sat down with one of our clients the other day, and can't say the name or the industry or don't want to give anything away.
After.
I'll tell you after. Okay. But what they and this may be an issue that a lot of marketers encounter, and maybe you have in your past, where they've gone into a company and they've said the CEO just doesn't get marketing. What advice would you give to that people who are in that position? apart from don't go to a company where the CEO doesn't believe in marketing, you know?
Look, let's be real here. There are very few CEOs that do understand marketing. And I have had that problem time and time again. You have to talk the CEO's language as a marketer. You have to be, from day one, caring about revenue objectives. If you come in and you start to talk about content or email campaigns or brand, all things which everybody here and everybody listening knows are deeply important. But if you come in and talk that language, you immediately get the kind of resistance. I'm not sure if I want this as a cost center. I don't know if they really care about my objectives. So actually it goes back to the age-old approach of show that you care about what's on his mind or her mind or their mind as a CEO. Show that you understand the language that they're using. Show that you care about churn rates, that you care about dormant customers, that you're thinking about your first campaigns in alignment with those objectives. My favorite question that I say to everybody of every level, best question you can ask any senior person, what is your biggest problem right now and how can I help you solve it?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Actually,
use it all the time. Yeah. Use it in an interview, use it on your first CEO meeting. Don't make it about, I've seen the website, I think this could be fixed. I get it. I think those things, I feel those things, I align with those things, but don't start there. Start by talking about the commercial measures and read the room. If the CEO lights up, you know, say she or he or they are talking about, last month's revenue was down, and they're really, you can see in their energy, they're getting animated by that. Get them talking about that more. Get them leaving that room thinking, God, marketing actually really do care about where we are as a business. Once you have that shared mutual interest, they're going to be more receptive to your initiatives, but it has to start there. You have to start with the business objectives, that language. I've said to every marketer that I've ever worked with and any marketer in my team, no matter what level, you have to leave each job with your direct contribution in a quantifiable way.
Wow.
You can't just say, led email campaigns. You can't just say, I ran PR, managed agencies. That is not tangible. You have to be able to say, my open rates increased from X to Y. My revenue contribution from social media was this. We, as a website, we increased traffic to this. You have to quantify it. Otherwise, your career progress also won't be as good. Forget just in the role, beyond the role, you'll be stunted.
Well, this is the reason this woman is super ambitious and she's going places. You heard it here. I completely agree. And I think a lot of the times, like when I first started my company, Interesting Content, it'd be like, what would you like? Whereas now, I'm going into meetings and I'm literally the first question we ask is, what's keeping you awake at night?
Love that.
And it kind of really gives you a really shortcut way to just say, okay, what's bothering you? What can we fix straight away? And also, from a marketing, we come in as a supplier, if you're able to kind of directly address what's the biggest issue in the company at the moment, you're guaranteeing yourself more work and actually fixing things from day one. So
definitely. And it is about helping all founders and leaders see that marketing is a tool for them. It's a tool commercially that they can really use, but it has to start with us knowing exactly where we need to take it. So I love that question too. I'm going to lock that one away.
Ooh, this is the ultimate honor. So Bianca actually took something away from this. So.
No, you're too kind. That's a great question. I love that.
I've written this question down because this is quite important. I just want to read this off the notes here.
Yeah.
Marketing has a very high percentage of people who suffer from mental health issues. And why is this happening? How can people take better self-care for themselves? And what's your, because obviously this is an issue that you're passionate about. Can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yeah, I'm really passionate about it. I think all of us, whether we're in marketing or otherwise, we want to belong. Belonging is so intrinsic to our happiness and our health. And in marketing, dependent on the company you join, sometimes you're viewed as sales, sometimes you're viewed as just content, sometimes you're viewed as brand. And often it means that you don't feel that you have a solidified place in a company. And that, for me, is one of the reasons why marketing and marketeers can struggle at times, to feel like they belong in a company, to feel that they have a place and a real seat at the table. And let's also go back to why a lot of people get into marketing. Many of us come from a creative background. Maybe we want to be in journalism, maybe we wanted to be in design, and then marketing, you kind of fall into it. And by the time we get into our careers, we're quite far removed from that original objective. We're also very naturally curious people. And depending on the company you're in, sometimes that curiosity can be dampened because there's not much of a place for it. So I think, yes, with lots of competing priorities, with a lack of belonging, with a lack of understanding sometimes of the value that we bring, there is a mental health impact. There are lots of startups where there's only one marketing person. That can be lonely.
And you've personally gone on to, or you're actually studying neuroscience at university at the moment.
Yeah.
What was the reason for that? Was it more just because it was it out of personal curiosity, or was it to kind of help you with your career, or a bit of both maybe?
Well, thank you for asking. It's a few things. So I've always been deeply curious, and I think my number one piece of advice for anyone in marketing is never stop learning about everything, because marketing is so much more than just what we do day to day. It's about understanding people generally and being able to reach them in a way that feels true to their objectives, as we mentioned. But to do that, you need to understand a little bit of everything, and you need to keep learning and keep becoming that incrementally bit wiser day by day. So I've always been really curious about this topic. I've always loved the idea of learning more about neuroscience, consumer neuroscience as a marketer. So actually seeing what happens in brain scans, for example, when certain campaigns are shown. But beyond that, the mental health component for me has been from lived experience and been through my experiences as a leader when I haven't felt very well equipped sometimes to best support my team members or best support what's going on. And I thought, this is a subject I want to know more about. I don't want to become a psychotherapist. I'm not there yet, but I am deeply curious about how we can best support each other and what tools we can use. So let me try it, and I absolutely love it.
I mean, I think this whole podcast episode could be dedicated to that topic alone. And it's like, once you get into it, you can really kind of get deeper into it.
You can, and I think for me, I started managing a team at 23. I was really young, and I did the best I could, but within that experience, there were some quite defining mental health challenges that a few of my team members had. And again, from that experience, it was so formative for me, and I thought a big part of leadership, and I think increasingly so, is going to be understanding the mental health of your team. And it's not about all of us becoming psychologists and knowing exactly what to do, but if I can better equip myself to have some of those conversations, I will.
Well, going away from this, you've, from the years I've known you, you've always come across as being very ambitious, and you want the best for yourself. Where does that come from?
Ooh, I think a few places. I have a background that didn't have access to these opportunities that I've been very fortunate to have. My mum is from Brazil, my whole female lineage is from Brazil, and I guess I've always felt this responsibility to, if I do get a seat at the table, if I do get an opportunity, I want to make the most of it. And I am very fortunate in the sense that I love working. I've always had a really strong work ethic. I've had to learn how to balance that out and look after myself on the point of self-care. But I have a lot of energy, and so I think, yes, for me, a few things. Responsibility, definitely. The privilege that I really do feel, given my family's starting point, and a love of helping my team fulfill their potential, working with interesting people, and just challenging myself. For me, it's less about ambition. It's more about the drive to learn as much as I can and seeing where that takes me.
Almost like pushing yourself to what you think what you are capable of doing.
Yeah, and just seeing how far I can take it. I have gone far beyond what I expected. I did not set out expecting to be where I am. Truthfully, I didn't.
Wow.
I just thought, I did a journalism degree. I was very lost after I graduated. It was the last recession. But I have followed that golden thread of where can I learn? Where are the lessons? And I've used that as my compass, so to speak, and it's worked. Wow. It's worked.
What advice would you give to if someone's watching this and they've just come out of uni, for example, and they feel a bit lost, they kind of don't know which kind of direction they want to go into? What advice would you give to them?
I would look for the greatest opportunity to work with the best people you can. And let's define best. People who are open to sharing, people who you look up to and you feel like, I maybe, not committing to anything, because it's all about experimentation, I think, in your 20s, maybe I might want to do something like that in the future, and just surround yourself with great mentors within work. it's hard to get mentors outside of work. It's hard when you reach out to people, and I did a lot of that when I started out. But be in environments where you can just be like a sponge and just soak everything up, and put yourself in the path of chances to learn, and don't obsess. I remember graduating and being so just in my head about the fact that I'm not quite where I want to be, and I want to work for big brands like Selfridges and John Lewis, and I moved on to TripAdvisor, and I just felt I'm not, this isn't quite it. I wish I'd just let it all kind of wash over me, taken all the lessons and had fun with it. The first 5 years should be about incremental experimentation, and it should be about building out a great network, because sometimes it's not quite the right role, but if you do a good job, if you're kind to people, if you're respectful and you show up and you say, you do what you say you're going to do, you build a whole network and people will look out for you and you'll look out for them. But yeah, have a lot of experiments, definitely put yourself in a place where you can learn, and don't overthink it. Don't get in your own way.
Another thing that's really struck me, Bianca, is like you've got a very, very strong personal brand, or a very distinctive personal brand. How do you go about building your personal brand to the point where it can help you accelerate your career?
Well, I actually think that goes back to the previous question as well, which is you have to stand out. You have to stand out, but you've got to do it in a way that's true to you. Because if you are forcing it, people can feel it. And in the age of ChatGPT and other AI tools, there's never been a more important time to use your voice and be known for your voice. So everything I've ever put out there has been inspired by a conversation that I've had at work, in the real world. And then when that's resonated with me, I thought, okay, let me maybe share this further and see how it goes. And again, experimentation. Personal branding for me actually started out because I was in brand and content, and I knew that I was going to hit a ceiling salary-wise if I stayed there. And my personal objective and my financial objectives needed me to earn more. And so I thought, how can I get marketing experience without having any actual tangible marketing experience in the way that I want to? And a lot of that was about putting content out there and learning the analytics through my own content, and it helped. For anyone that's starting a personal brand now, figure out what it is that you want to talk about. Actually write your own tone of voice guidelines like you would for a brand. Take it really seriously visually. Have a visual identity. Make yourself your own branding project. Something that marketers really struggle with is actually working on their personal brand because we're too close to it. And often the thing that we're really good at for companies, we're not very good at for ourselves. And so engage with other marketers. If you're not sure about what your values are, what your voice should be, ask 5 people that you trust and ask them how they view you and what values they see when they hear from you and when they have a conversation with you, and then build up that brand from there. But I strongly recommend actually sitting down on an evening, on a weekend, when you can, and just write out your brand guidelines. Because when you have those, it becomes easier. You build your templates on Canva, you build out, okay, I sound like this, I don't sound like that. I talk about these topics, and then just start. Get some initial data, do a month's experiment. I'm going to commit to posting twice a week for 1 month, because chances are you have a full-time job and you're busy, but I'm just going to try that. And then at the end of the month, I'm going to see what has actually succeeded, what hasn't, what did I most enjoy, what did other people, what got the most comments. Set your metric for success. Some people, if it's on Instagram, it's about saved content. Other people on LinkedIn, it's about comments. Repost, find your metrics and have fun with it. Have fun with it above all, and don't overthink it. And here's the big thing. People look at vanity metrics as maybe a measure of success. I look at it as, who have I actually had message me privately? How, for example, you saw my post and now we're doing this. And that wasn't one of my best performing posts. It's not about that. It's about the holistic contribution to your career.
Yeah, often I've been posting quite regularly on LinkedIn, and ironically, the posts that don't really perform best, through number of likes or comments, they're the ones where I get the most genuine kind of reach outs from.
Me too.
Like there was a post I posted a few months ago, and it barely got like 5 likes in there. But then someone actually literally rang me up the next day saying, "Hey, can we talk about this?" Or "This is something I've been struggling with." Or I don't know if you get this, where you kind of feel like a celebrity where you've not met someone for a while, but then they're like, oh, I've been seeing what you've been doing, I've been following you, I've been watching you, kind of, not in a creepy way, obviously, but...
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. The best example I've had of this was a few months ago. My husband put up a post. He is a software engineer, specializes in Golang and other programming languages, and he was speaking at an upcoming Golang meetup in London. He puts up a post, I think it got something like 10 likes, and he said, oh, it's such a fail. And I'm always pushing him, personal brand-wise. And we get to the talk, and he's like, I'm just not feeling that great about it. I'm like, no, it'll be good. Just go. You know what you're talking about. At the end, a guy came up to him who had travelled from Paris to London, having seen his content.
Oh, wow. Just to listen.
Just for that talk. Just for that talk and for that night. I said, that post got 10 likes. Look at that. And that was him saying, I don't get any website hits. I'm not getting any traction with it. I'm just going to give up. And then there was that person. It's all about quality, not quantity. And you never know who's looking.
Wow.
At the very least, you get a great CV point if you don't have too much experience that says, look, I've been consistent with my personal brand. And again, it's really about experimentation with it, but you never know who's watching.
Wow. And there's so many stories like this that I can share myself, but I know you're short for time, so...
No, I'd love to hear if anything comes to mind. Please do share.
I mean, I think the first thing that comes in is like people who kind of really resonate. There was a person we worked with about a year ago, and I had posted up something quite personal to me because my team were from Ukraine at that time, and I had just shared something about if anyone can help, please donate here or whatever it was. I can't even remember what it was, but the person who actually messaged me said, look, I'm actually working on this thing right now, and your post resonated with me to the point where we ended up having a coffee, and then that turned into a project for us. And that wasn't the reason I had posted it. It was actually just something I genuinely wanted to share in the world. So it's funny how these kind of things kind of work out. I think the personal branding tip is something we should definitely get you back on in the future, and then really kind of get into more detail, because a lot of marketers that we speak to are amazing marketers, but they sometimes they just switch their mind off in terms of when it comes to marketing themselves.
I get why. I think when you're on those platforms all day, every day for work, you kind of want to switch off. But for me, especially if you're earlier in your career, there's no better way of accelerating than actually showing up, sharing content, really learning analytically in a way that perhaps you can't in your job, and then applying those skills to your CV as well and shouting about them. Perfect.
I mean, there's so many other questions I want to ask you.
I know, me too.
3 must-read books. And this is the part where we kind of get to know you a bit more. And the person behind this, all the posts and everything.
Oh, so many good books. I am an avid reader. I always have a book in my bag. First one, Radical Candor. Have you read it? Kim Scott. Yeah. So I don't know if it's helped your team. I'd love your thoughts on it.
One of our team members, he started reading it, and he made sure that every single person in the team actually got a chance to read it. And I think she also has a really good TED Talk as well.
She does.
For people who don't know, this is a lady who's worked with the CEOs, founders of Google, Spotify, Apple everyone.
She's brilliant, and I was very fortunate to have a mentoring session with her.
Oh, wow.
And she is fantastic. Kim Scott, definitely check her out. Her whole model is about how if you are a people pleaser, which I absolutely was, you can have better relationships and get better results from your teams with her model of radical candor. And she really talks about caring personally, so care about your team members on a personal, human level, know their birthdays, know their struggles, know about the people that matter to them in their lives, and challenge directly. If something comes up, don't be out there, just avoiding it or just trying to, make up if it's bad work, you're trying to just fix it yourself. Talk to them directly, respect them enough to talk to them directly. And she also talks about ruinous empathy, which I had in abundance, where I almost was so overthinking it and so caring almost too much that it was suffocating my team members. So that model has been huge for me.
I think it's also, there's one bit in the book where it could be a case study. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was where she says it was getting to the point where she empathized with the person so much to the point where it was detrimental to her.
Yes.
And it was neither doing the team member any favors or her, and kind of everything fell apart. So I mean, I think there was a meme that was distilled from this book, and it was literally because I'm a simple person, and memes are the way I understand the world.
Memes are the way forward.
It basically said, hard conversations, easy life, easy conversations, hard life. And it inspired me to the point where I actually took a screenshot and I actually saved it on the phone. So
I like that a lot. And when I got to a point in my career where unfortunately at times I'd have to let people go, I really leaned on this book and needed to just go back to that model again and again because it would get to me. I struggled a lot, especially as a young leader.
Good.
Yeah.
Other two books.
Okay, other two books. Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. I just love that as a principle and as a concept. I think that there's so much that can be taken from his work generally. I'm not going to say start with why because that's such a cliche, but I do love that work and it had a big impact on me. And for the third, I'm not going to say any one specific book. I'm going to say I am very intentional about reading very broadly. So I love business books. I've mentioned two of them, but I'm also always looking at, okay, you've kind of over-indexed on business books. You need to read something about art now. You need to read some fiction. You need to read something historical. For me, reading really broadly has made me a better rounded person, but it also expands my curiosity and it just improves the conversations that you have in the world. So I'm always taking recommendations from wherever I can, and that's definitely helped me a lot.
Wow, so very good. So you kind of have a good palette of kind of fiction, non-fiction to kind of balance everything out.
Well, I'm a real non-fiction person, so I have to force myself to read fiction, but I do, and I try and make every fourth book I read a fiction book, just so I'm not limiting myself.
Before we go, what is the book that you have in your handbag?
Oh my God, should we go get it? Yes, let's have a look.
We are going through Bianca's
Oh my God, go for it. It is a book that one of my closest friends gave me.
50 Shades of Grey, I knew it.
No, here it is. So it's about visual politics by Bell Hooks, feminist writer, absolutely incredible.
I think she's also a journalist who's a writer.
She's done a lot of very important work for the Black community, feminist movement. It is a mixture of, you've got visuals in there. So I love going to exhibitions and just really embracing this world as well. And it's also an interview. So you've got a conversation with her. Yeah, Bell Hooks is amazing.
Well, this is completely unscripted, by the way, guys, and it turned out to be such an interesting book.
Yes, because I've been a little bit in my business book phase. I'm like, no, I was reading some Jim Collins and going back to Built to Last and Good to Great, and I'm like, no, I need this. So, Art on My Mind, Visual Politics, Bell Hooks.
Recommended. 3 must-listen to podcasts. I don't know if you listen to podcasts.
I listen to so many podcasts.
What are the first 3 that comes to? Because
my gosh.
Doesn't have to be business, doesn't have to be marketing related, could be.
I know, it's always got to be a mixture for me. I love the FT weekend.
Yeah.
So I love that as a summary because it's a mixture of what's been going on that week, but also cultural recommendations. So going back to that balancing act, that's a ritual of mine. Obviously how to build it and how I built it and that whole world I just adore. I really like a podcast called On Being, which is just very intellectual, spiritual conversations with different writers, thinkers, people, academics, who are talking about the human experience, but in a very thoughtful and quite poetic way. And I like that because I think any chance to expand my vocabulary, I will take, and podcasts are really good for that. So if ever you're in a mindset where you just want to listen to something a little bit more thoughtful, I could recommend you so many business podcasts, but I think that in particular has been...
Those 3 are the first ones to go to. Cool.
Yeah, really beautiful.
What are 3 SaaS tools that you cannot live without?
Oh, so many SaaS tools. So I am all about good branding in SaaS generally. I think that Stripe is absolutely incredible as a brand. I really look to them, particularly working in the fintech space. I wouldn't call it a SaaS tool, but I am very dependent on AI tools now.
Yeah.
For everything.
Yeah.
I really view them, and this is a bit of a tangent, but I promise it'll be worth it. I think in marketing, there's a bit of fear, especially in the content writing space and design as well. Where are we going with AI? We are going with AI in a place of it's our job to learn how to manage those tools and view them as an extension of our team in a really healthy way. So yes, massive in that space. I obviously love Slack, depend on it deeply. And I think that I'm not quite SaaS, but Canva is massive.
I mean, we're big users of Canva here.
I love Canva for everything. It sounds basic, but I love Canva. Yeah, it's probably the single most game-changing thing for myself and my teams.
Yeah, you're being real, which is why we have you here.
No, Canva is really important because, again, it's becoming better and better and better. So for the future for designers, it's about managing that tool.
Yeah.
It's not about trying to pretend it doesn't exist or berating it.
Yeah.
It's about, we have access to this great resource, let's use it.
And I mean, I think I designed a flyer the other day, and it was for a small thing I was doing. I actually, I would happily pay £250 to a designer to actually get it done, because I knew how hard it was to kind of get my ideas from my head into into design, without me spending 5 hours of my life and getting it to the scratch. Whereas, I'd happily pay. So it's almost like it made me realize why I'm paying a designer to actually create these things for me. So
yes, I love that. And I think I'll add one more to the mix, which is anything to do with HubSpot. I love HubSpot. I love how customer-centric they are. And I love their CEO. Yamini Rangan is someone who everybody should listen to a podcast with. She is so inspiring. And I've got a lot of respect for that company.
Wow. It's really unique tools as well, actually.
Yeah.
You've mentioned a couple of people. Who are some of the people that you follow online that really inspire you or give you ideas when you actually need them most?
So definitely going back to my HubSpot recommendation, Yamini Rangan is the CEO. I love Katie Berg, who is the Chief People Officer at HubSpot. She has some really thoughtful ideas on company culture, which I recommend everybody checks out because, they're doing something very, very different there and very successfully. So love her. And, I'm quite agnostic about specific people. I'm interested in themes. So I think right now, workplace culture is something we're all still figuring out. So any interesting ideas on that? Psychology and neuroscience, for obvious reasons, doing my master's. And I really think that when we're looking at neuroscience, and if people are interested in learning more, there's some great work out there. The Huberman Lab is a great one.
Amazing podcast.
So following him also on LinkedIn, I love.
You are transported 10 years ago, 15 years ago when you first started in the world of marketing. What advice would you give yourself? Would it be anything specific?
Yes.
It
would. A few things. Great question. I would tell myself to use my voice earlier on. I sat in a lot of meetings early in my career where I just wasn't sure that I could maybe push the boundaries of the conversation or make a recommendation. But actually, I've learned that's where all the fun is. And so, I wish I hadn't been so silent. I'm naturally quite a shy person, which is something I've had to work on over the years. But I think, using my voice more, even if you're in a meeting and you're not feeling 100% confident, just challenge yourself to say one thing early on. I'd also say that the greatest key to your success is going to be in that holistic business understanding. And I think the last thing would be have more fun with it. Enjoy the process more. I was always so worried about, where am I going? And is this right? Does this feel right? Have more fun with it. The great thing about marketing is that, yes, we're incredibly data-driven. Yes, we've got a lot of pressures. Yes, you're so right to mention there are mental health challenges. But also we get to bring something completely unique to a business, which is this blend of community, creativity, brand building, and where commercial also meets. So enjoy and network a lot. I didn't do enough of that early on.
Could you tell us, in terms of networking and getting, what, because, a lot of people in marketing, they're kind of creative folks, but they tend to be very insulated or insular.
Very insular, yeah.
And, because whereas, if you go to the salesperson, they're kind of, their whole job is talking to people. What advice would you give to someone?
Just have more conversations with people in positions like yours. I think a great thing to get involved with is any kind of marketing roundtable. There are lots of different companies holding these, and put yourself out there. And if you admire someone's work, tell them. Write them a message. Say, I'm loving what you're doing at this business. you're not in competition if you're in the same sector working for different companies. It's all about how you view it, right?
Yeah.
So reach out to them. Don't be afraid to make that connection. Don't be afraid also to email someone and not get a reply. It's like a muscle. Every time you do it, it builds. And I think the more community you build around your career, the more content you're going to be and the smarter you're going to be, because you'll have all these different insights. So, yeah.
Wow, there's so many things to talk about. One thing I want to say before final words, I guess, is a lot of marketing managers that we speak to, they're quite, this goes back to mental health issues, as well as, the kind of position a lot of marketing people kind of end up in, where they're like, I want to be valued for my work, or I want to be seen as being I'm bringing something to the table. What advice would you give to someone who should value their not just career but themselves as a person, so they feel like they can actually contribute something to meetings, or to the actually when you're actually doing a day-to-day job, for example?
So let's talk day-to-day first, and then I'll talk more broadly. Day-to-day, if you feel overwhelmed, prepare for your meetings. If you feel that there's going to be a lot of people around the table and there's not going to be many chances for you to speak, prepare some great questions that cut through the noise in advance. And be pretty audacious in doing that, because as marketing, you have a very different perspective and a fresh perspective. Day-to-day also, listen to customer calls. Listen to them as much as you can. Not to monitor sales unless you're asked to, but listen so you hear the customer's voice. You have an insight into their psyche and where they're at with the product. And I think really get to know, going back to what we said earlier, the founder's priorities. Get to know the founder's priorities and be the voice in the room for the customer. That's day-to-day. Career-wise and recognition-wise. Controversial, know when to quit. Don't stay in a role too much out of loyalty, because ultimately the only person that's really going to look out for yourself is you. So you have to know if you're not learning, if you're being undervalued, if paid conversations aren't happening even once you have achieved things, know when to go. I think successful people know when something isn't working, and they move on quickly from that. Fail forward. Know that even if you join a company and it's not quite right, it's okay to move on. You take the lessons or you win. So you win either way, really. I think it's true. There's no failure. Either you succeed or you learn a lot. That's a win-win to me. Wow,
that's amazing. I mean, I think that's advice that could kind of cut through a lot of facets in everyone's life.
In life generally, absolutely.
What final words would you have to leave to our wonderful and most beautiful audience?
Marketer to marketer, I know that it is a strange and interesting time for us. We've got a lot of competing priorities. Sometimes our value is questioned. Sometimes we're in companies that perhaps aren't ready for marketing or don't quite know what to do with it. And my advice would be get really close to the customer. Never forget the value that you bring to a business. Have fun experimenting. Find that really fantastic intersection between data and brand, because I think we're running into an era where there are two types of marketer. You're either a brand and creative marketer, or you're a data-driven marketer, and that can't be the case. If you want to get to C-level, you have to have both. You have to, of course, you're always going to have one that you're more of a specialist in, but you have to have both. Understand business objectives and have fun with your role. If it's not working, if there's too much resistance, know when to leave, and keep doing what you're doing in a way that's true to who you are. Wow.
On that note, Bianca, thank you so much for your time. How can people get in touch with you if they wanted to?
Absolutely. I'd love to hear from anyone. LinkedIn, Instagram, always happy to have a coffee, have a conversation. It's like I said earlier, it's really important that we build community.
Perfect.
So thank you.
Thank you.